Honestly speaking, I was not a social media guy. I just thought it was, I'm being honest with my perspective going in. I was like, I don't know. This is kind of tacky. Do I want to do it? You say that, but it's so funny because my parents didn't want me to go into medicine. If there's one thing about Asian culture, it's the wisdom and like random analogies like that.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode, our special series today on the Asian Hustle Network podcast, our creators podcast with Meta Prosper. Today we have a very special guest, one of the founders and operators of Medschoolboiz, Surya, and we're happy to have him on the podcast today.
Pleasure to meet you, Brian. Really happy to be here, share a little bit of our story, and get to know you all as well.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing your story with us. As you know, we do have a lot of active listeners to our podcast for now. I think last time I checked, we had about I think close to like 7 figures listeners, which is pretty
Wow,
insane because when we
that's
started
awesome.
this podcast like a while back, like we didn't expect it to kind of be the size it is today. And we kind of just are very happy to be one of the voices of the Asian American community.
Absolutely. Well, we're honored to share our story, be part of it. We were kind of looking into when you guys reached out to us, we were kind of like, is this real? Like they've got a huge audience. That's really cool that they're reaching out to us. Like we're all for it. So
No, you
honored to
guys have
be.
a much bigger audience, but I want to hear into your story of how you guys even started Medschoolboiz.
Yeah, so definitely I don't know if you've heard this from other people. It's definitely not something we even thought about, or even wanted to try to start consciously. So we all, to kind of take it back, we all started medical school in 2021 at Texas A&M College of Medicine, which is in a college town in Texas called College Station, Texas, kind of in between Dallas, Houston, Austin. It's kind of in the middle of those three cities to, kind of make things simple. And, we started med school, we're going into it. We're all really nervous. I don't really know too many people at my school. And so I'm kind of making friends. And then, the culture at our school luckily was pretty wholesome. So we all kind of just, kind of vibed with each other. A few of us really got close with one another. I'd say a group of eight of us, 8 to 9 of us. And, it was so funny that looking back on it now. But on the day of our white coat ceremony, which is kind of the day when med school starts, usually, you're given your white coat and it's kind of like an introduction into the field, right? One of our friends, Aaron, who I actually probably give the most credit to for starting our brand, he kind of started us. He was just like, hey, you guys want to make a quick TikTok or a quick video of us just kind of wearing, like transitioning into our white coats. We're wearing our business casual stuff. And honestly speaking, I was not a social media guy. I just thought it was, I'm being honest with my perspective going in. I was like, I don't know. This is kind of tacky. Do I want to do it? But I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And we all kind of made that video where, there was like a beat drop in the video and we all just like transitioned to our white coats. And Aaron posted it on his personal social media pages. And we woke up the next day and I woke up to like tons of messages, probably 50 text messages, thousands of views, and people were like, "Oh my God, this is so cool. Wow." And so Aaron kind of told us, he was like, "Hey man, why don't we, do something with this? We've got a pretty cool friend group here. Why don't we make something of this like viewership that we've got?" So he kind of started us on this mission to kind of just document our journey through med school, a group of 9 guys, different perspectives on life, but still connected with, very similar South Asian roots. And we just kind of went from there, decided to make content kind of showcasing our journey. That eventually became something we were like, hey, why don't we make some educational content along the way? And honestly, it was just kind of an evolution of, going along the med school journey, showing a different side to medicine, perhaps, because I think we probably get into it later, but we just kind of decided, hey, we feel like there's a new flavor of medicine, especially within the Asian American community, to kind of showcase what goes on. So that's a little bit about our origin story and kind of the spark notes of how we're here. But
No,
happy
no,
to get into it.
I love it. I love it. And I know that our team has definitely looked into what you guys have built, and you do have an official mission statement for what you're doing, which is insane, by the way. I love that.
Appreciate
Um,
that.
Yeah, so it looks like your mission statements are we are a group of Texas A&M medical students who create social media content via Instagram, YouTube, TikTok through trendy videos, skits, and pre-med advice and educational content. How many social media accounts actually have a mission statement like that? That is amazing.
Oh, well, appreciate that. Honestly, I feel like we just kind of assumed that that's what the norm was. We kind of figured that if you're making a brand, you've got to stand behind something, right? So that's kind of what we figured at the moment, but appreciate it.
Yeah, as I know, like content creation is, it could be a full-time thing. And looking at your engagement on your social media, it's amazing, right? There's hundreds of thousands of shares and likes and whatever it is. How do you find time to juggle both? right? I know med school is like not easy at all. And here you guys are essentially a full-time student and full-time content creator. How do you guys juggle both?
Well, I would say, it's funny you say that. I feel like I take that as a compliment, but I definitely don't consider us full-time content creators. I think for us, we're honestly blessed to be doing social media in the time that we're doing it, just because of short form content and how that's kind of taken off in the last couple of years. So for us, first and foremost, medicine is a priority for us. Without us being in med school and kind of pursuing that path, there is no platform, to kind of stand behind. So we always tell people that's kind of our priority, and we make sure we're about that and learning the stuff there. But honestly, with short form content, some of it is planned, some of it is very sporadic. When we have an idea, it's like, hey, let's dedicate 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, right? And what we always kind of joke around about is we have time to shower, we have time to eat, we have time to make a little 5-10 minute video here and there. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, we definitely have ventures that take longer, but I think that's kind of the bulk of it. We definitely don't consider it a full-time job, but we definitely invest a lot of time. You could probably relate to it. You can get doing a little bit every day of something is definitely, that adds up into something. So that's kind of how we see it personally.
I love the fact that you guys have transitioned more from an educational standpoint, more to your street interview. But I know that that didn't come without any challenges, right? I heard that or seen some information online that the sentiment at the very beginning was you guys make med school seem a little bit too easy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What was the first wave of I don't know, like feedback from the community? How did that feel to you, and how do you like deal with it?
I always tell people we were pretty fortunate that we honestly, compared to a lot of groups out there, we haven't gotten too much hate, to be honest with you. And so most people have really resonated with what we've done. I think the thing that you're referring to was, I would say there were definitely a couple of people in our class who, at the beginning, kind of, we were very fortunate that even though we're a group of friends, the 9 of us, right, we're very close with the rest of our classmates. And so in having honest conversations with some of them, they were like, yeah, people have sent me your videos and they know that I go to your med school and you guys are making it seem real fun. And I think the problem is people mistook our positive kind of spin on our videos and just assumed that, oh, med school is positive, fun, and they kind of assume it's easy, right? And so I would say the thing you're referring to is from our classmates. And so that was definitely kind of tough because, people say not to care what other people think, but if you really love someone, you value someone, it's kind of hard not to. But I think over time, our classmates kind of saw the value in it and they kind of understood what we were doing. And they understood that, people were going to say what they were going to say regardless. And I think, fortunately, I feel like our classmates feel like, if anything, we've kind of shown a more professional side to it as well. So I think they've come to terms with that. And most of them, honestly, really support it. So I would say it's kind of weird, right? It came internally from within our class at times, but uh, from the outside world, people are all for it for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong, we do have some crazy DMs here and there, but
Yeah.
a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's the nature of social media in general. But I'm really happy that you're able to look at the positive sides, right? I know that some people, especially even including myself, right? I was very sensitive to what the community thought about what I was building. And, sometimes these words, even though I don't know who you are, they hurt. I don't know. It's so loud, you know?
Oh yeah, I feel like, I mean, at what point do you feel like you reached that point where you were like, you know what, I am who I am and I'm going for it? Do you feel like it took a couple years or was it like a couple months or?
For me, definitely took a couple years for me to realize that, but I also realized that the haters are the loudest people in the room, and there's so many silent supporters out there, right? And that's the way I
Amen.
like to think of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you guys are able to look towards positively creating educational content and so forth. I know that you didn't start this by yourself. You started with a group of friends. Who are they?
Oh,
Tell me more about them.
absolutely. Well, I got to shout out all of them. It's me, obviously Surya. We've got Aaron. Aaron is the guy who I really give most of the credit to. He's the one who he's got the videography skills, the cinematography skills, a lot of the cool edits that you've probably seen on our page. And he's the one that really brought that flavor to us. Then we've got, a guy named Karan, Akash, Harshit, Alan, Jeswin. I've got to shout out their names. Salman. And so, shout out to them. I think for all of us, yeah, it's just cool. We've all kind of put our egos to the side and we're just making it happen.
I have to ask you a burning question. So you started this in 2021. I would imagine
Yeah.
some of you guys are about to graduate school.
Oh yeah.
How are you guys going to keep passing on the torch and keep going?
Oh, we always tell people that we feel like we're just getting started, right? Because I feel like even though, yeah, we're all like more in close proximity since we're in med school, I think one of the things people don't realize is as medical students, we're still kind of conscious of what we're posting because we're not actually physicians yet, right? So you've got to be real careful what you're putting out there, especially with medical advice and things like that. So for our vision, we feel like as we kind of go into residency and we go into our practices as physicians, we feel like we're just going to be learning more, kind of gaining a little more credibility, and hopefully doing more with educational stuff. Because also all of us want to go into very different medical specialties as well. So we just feel like we're getting started, and the content is going to get real diverse with what we're doing. So we're actually very excited about the future. We feel like we're just getting started.
No, that's really reassuring for me to hear because I know that most of your content right now is based upon medical school stuff. And I was like, huh, I wonder what the vision, what the future will look
Oh
like for
yeah,
you guys.
absolutely.
Absolutely. I want to hear more about how you transition more into street interview concepts, right? What
Oh yeah.
caused that pivot and that you want to involve other people into your content?
We feel like we felt that one, there was an entertaining aspect of that, right? And two, we always felt like with our content, we didn't want to just keep it to the medical school realm and the professional realm, right? I think it's always interesting to people to get a sense of like what the community and like general population thinks as a whole. And so a lot of our street interviews kind of revolve around topics and information that the average person it would be beneficial for them to know. So that was really our impetus for it. We were just like, one, it's pretty entertaining. Two, people seem to really enjoy, especially in the streets. Like people, I feel like there's also been a change in social media where you see a lot of different brands, regardless of what field they're in, kind of doing that. So for us, it was a combination of those two things. Hey, this kind of brings an entertaining flavor to the media content, but also I think the general population can benefit from some of this information. So that was kind of our thing with that.
No, that's absolutely. I think I think it's amazing, right? I think seeing some of your recent videos as well. Like I love how you ask the same questions to a different group of people with different answers, and it's just amazing how, we can make education, especially around the medical side, so much more fun.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
what people don't realize too is I feel like, what we've realized too is I feel like people are just, I know some people are like, "Oh, how much do people know?" I feel like the average population, you'd be surprised how much knowledge people know and what they read about. So for us, it's always pretty cool to see it, personally speaking.
yeah, definitely. So I want to hear more about how you built your community on various platforms, right? What kind of strategic advantages have you thought about each platform, and where is your main community based upon?
Absolutely. So I would say we have strategy now, but when we were starting, we didn't really have a plan. We were just going along with the flow. And I think Instagram was really kind of where things kind of blew up and where our community was really formed. The thing we really liked about Instagram and Facebook as well, especially in the last couple of years, it's real global. It's a real global platform. I think initially when we started, our focus was just U.S. medical students, U.S. population. But I think on Instagram, we started seeing, people from India, Pakistan, the Philippines, different, countries in Asia, Europe even, right? People really engaging with the content, not just medical students, but people, in the broader healthcare profession and just general, I guess people from the public. So for us, we were just kind of in the mindset, oh, hey, we really got to capitalize on this, right? And it's really cool. We want to feel connected with the world, right? We went into it thinking with, the United States was kind of our main base, right? Because that's where we are and that's where we live. So I would say Instagram is, our definitely our baby for sure when it comes to our platforms. And we want to expand in other places because I think there's a lot of utility elsewhere. But yeah, Instagram for the global connection for sure.
No, I love that. I hear that a lot from other creators too, how they built their audience on other platforms and use Instagram or Facebook as their main community source.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Have you got recognized yet on like the street randomly as you're eating? And how did you handle that?
Yeah, I would say it really, for the most part, happens on college campuses in Texas for sure. Medical schools and college campuses in Texas. But occasionally, when we've gone to universities in other parts of the country, or even the airport, every now and then people will come up. But it's usually Aaron, our guy Aaron is he's our main content creator, so people really recognize him. For me, it happens in other parts. Honestly, I really appreciate it because usually people are just, I would say 99.99% of the time, it's, hey, good stuff, guys. Really, really love the content you're doing. Like, that's so cool, right? And I know some people say they don't like it and the anonymity is nice, but I feel like with the type of platform we have, we still have enough anonymity where no one's coming up to our driveway or finding out where we live, and we just really feel appreciated, kind of in random parts of the country. So that's how
Yeah,
I see it.
you guys are doing it right. I think the
Yeah.
hard part is being the main face of your content and being recognized as you're trying to just have a normal day. You know?
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely. Listen, we're not celebrities or anything like that. So it's definitely not anything crazy, but it does happen from time to time for sure.
You're definitely a celebrity in my book for sure. Um,
Well, appreciate that.
I'm kind of curious. I want to learn more about yourself,
Yeah.
right? I know that we spent some time talking about your platform, your vision, what you're trying to build, who you worked with, your origin story. But Shurya, tell me about yourself, right? Where'd you grow up? What was the Asian upbringing like? I want to hear all about
Oh,
that.
absolutely. So I am the son of two South Indian immigrants, and so they came to California in the 90s. And so I was born in California, but I came to Houston, Texas when I was 2 years old, and I've pretty much been here ever since, right? And I give my parents a lot of credit. I know people talk a lot about the Asian stereotypes growing up, whether it's with education or your social life, but my parents really were pretty loving and supporting. I think the biggest challenge that I found growing up with them, especially in like a South Indian household, was, and I don't know if this is so much South Indian as it is their personality, but I thought my parents were always very closed off with their emotions, right? And so I felt that there was always a struggle growing up here where, especially in the US, right, you're taught to express yourself, put your voice out there. And I think my parents, that was something they kind of feared, perhaps with their own experiences in India. And so I would say I always felt that there was a little bit of struggle there growing up, whether I joined a club. And I always tell the story. Our high school had like a beauty pageant show, right, for the guys, right, and it was a really silly, fun thing that we did. And I remember my parents initially that's something they were like, I don't know, like you're putting yourself out there in a really comedic, funny way. Um, so, there was always weird kind of tension with that at times. But I think as time has gone on, my parents have kind of found the humanity in that and kind of evaluated their own upbringing. So I would say from an Asian, I don't know how much of that relates to my Asian upbringing, but that's kind of the struggle I mainly dealt with personally. Yeah, when it comes to that, my
Yeah.
upbringing.
I mean, I do appreciate you sharing that. It's definitely very reminiscent to a lot of things. I think
Oh, absolutely.
here you are living up to one of the parents' dreams, becoming a doctor, as you
Well,
all know.
my parents actually didn't want me. You say that, but it's so funny because my parents didn't want me to go into medicine.
Really?
Yeah, no, I always tell people that when I was growing up, they were just like, "Oh, it's such a long path. You want to really go into that much debt. You really want to spend all those years. Like, why can't you? It's stability, right? Yeah, ironically, people see medicine as stability, but especially in the Asian community. But I felt that my parents had a very different take on it. But for me, I saw medicine as a very diverse path. So I was like, yeah, why not? Let's hop in. It's a lot of years, but I mean, I wouldn't have met the Medschoolboiz if it wasn't for it. So I definitely worked out. I'd like to
Yeah.
think. Or
One thing, maybe I don't know if this is true or not, but one thing I noticed about my Asian friends in Texas, especially Houston at least, that a lot of them go into the medical field, right? It just
yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like Houston's pretty like we've got the whole like Texas Medical Center. They probably I don't know if they've told you about it, but there's just a lot of I feel like so much of Houston's like economy like revolves around that. Besides oil and gas, obviously, but there's a
yeah.
big healthcare field here. So that's not
Uh,
surprising to hear, but hopefully they
uh,
enjoy it here.
yeah, I know exactly where I'm retiring later.
Well, that's a cool thing. You're asking about the upbringing. I feel like one of the things I'm grateful for is I think not just Asian community, but Houston is such a diverse city that I honestly would love to be here long term if things work out. But I think being exposed to so many different cultures and backgrounds, and it's been a great experience here. I mean, I don't know how often you visit Houston, but good
Yeah.
food, definitely got to come through.
I do love those steak nights. Those
Oh
steak
yeah,
nights are
oh yeah.
awesome. Just because you guys don't know, if you guys are from Texas, are you guys listening? For you guys listening, uh, Houston has the best steak nights on like the most random days, where it's like Tuesday, Wednesdays, and it's like really comes with a steak and like eggs and a beer, I believe, like less than like $20.
No, that's another thing. Yeah, you'll get your good bang for buck here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, yeah. I want to hear more about the field that you're in the medical side. All right. What are you studying?
Absolutely.
What's your special, what are you specializing in?
So the way it works here is medical, at least with medical school, everyone kind of does the same thing for the most part. So I haven't really specialized yet, but I'm currently in the process of applying to residency right now. So my plans are to do internal medicine residency. And then from there, I'm not exactly sure where I go because internal medicine is kind of, I guess the way I explain to people is it's 3 years of kind of pretty generalized training where you are just taking care of patients in the hospital. And then from there, you can decide to do that. You can go into kind of like the primary care clinic and treat patients there, or you can spend some years training and be a cardiologist, or you can be a gastroenterologist. So there's like a lot of different varieties. So I'm still figuring out what I want to do. So right now I'm basically it's 3 years of general medicine training is what I'm kind of going for right now.
I love it. I think the one thing I love talking about to you in this podcast is that I feel like you're one of the rare people that I talk to that has a crystal clear vision of where you want to take your platform, your career, your future, what you're gonna do. That's a lot of credit to you, right? I think the
Well, I appreciate that, but I would like to say that I still, I always tell myself it's still open. I feel like like I told you, I didn't expect to be someone who was so intimately involved with social media, right? Because if you'd asked me what my career plans were at the beginning of med school, I would have told you something way different. You know what I mean? But I think, yeah, I'd like to think, have a plan, go for it, and then be open to whatever door, opens its way.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Johnny Kim podcast, where he talks
Mhm.
about, hey, how are you now an astronaut, a doctor, a U.S. Navy SEAL? And he's like, I just have a plan, I just go for it. You know?
Well, I definitely don't have Johnny Kim is something else, but I feel like he's on a different level, but I appreciate that.
Of course, of course. As you know, we're at the end of the podcast now. I just want to hear what med school boys look like the next like 10 years from now. Because I know you mentioned that you guys are going to be very diverse. Is it going to be a learning platform? Is it going to stay on social media? Is it going to be courses now? Is it going to be the next WebMD? I wonder what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I would say, I definitely feel like we don't want to go, always open to whatever may happen, but something we pride ourselves in is not limiting ourselves to one thing. I think we always tell people something like this hasn't been done. And what we mean by that is usually in the medical social media space, you've got either a creator or it's like a team of 2 or 3 creators max, and they've got their niche. And that's what people kind of told us. They were like, okay, as you go on, find out what your niche is. But for us, we see ourselves as kind of everything. We want to do educational content. We want to do podcasts and hopefully get better mics in the future, and really kind of share our story there, right? Long form content, short form content, maybe still keep up the street interviews. So I would say we want to just stay under the general umbrella of education and inspiration. And we really don't want to put ourselves in one kind of lane, if you will. So I know that's a pretty broad answer, but I think, yeah, we kind of want to do everything. That's what I kind of tell people. We don't want to limit ourselves to one lane because, and I think you can probably attest to it. I think social media it's such a changing landscape. So I feel like it wouldn't be right to just decide that right now. We want to see what happens as the platforms kind of change and evolve over time.
No, I feel the same way as you. Like sometimes when people ask me, what is your vision for AHN? I'm like, oh, it's something much I want to do for the Asian community. You know?
No, absolutely. I mean, and I'm sure it's like, I'm sure there's a lot of things that, you guys stuck to in terms of plan and vision, but I'm sure there's a lot of new opportunities that have just kind of arisen. You're like, you got to
Yeah.
be, I guess, it's funny. One of my, he's one of my Korean physician mentors. He always says like, be like water. He's kind of like very, very zen with the advice. So that's what we always try to remember.
You know what's funny? I actually thought about this morning. I was laying in bed. I'm like, oh, I just be like water today. I love it. You
Telling you,
just totally
man,
read my mind.
if there's one thing about Asian culture, it's the wisdom and like random analogies like that I love.
Absolutely. So how can our audience reach out to you and learn more about you online?
Absolutely. So I would say our Instagram is probably our main platform right now. So it's just at Medschoolboiz with a Z. We always tell people that. When people look us up, they type in the BOYS after the med school. But it's, yeah, med school, all lowercase, and then BOIZ. And if you want to learn a little bit more about us personally, we've got a website as well, just
Cool.
www.medschoolboiz.com. And that's a little more personal side to us where we kind of talk about our hobbies and kind of what we do outside of medicine as well. Because, medicine is, we always say medicine is a priority, but it's not the priority. Our friends and family are everything to us. So you can kind of see that side. But yeah, I would say our Instagram's there, and we definitely have plans for YouTube in the coming weeks, months as well. So stay tuned for that as well. But
We
yeah,
will
that's
we will be staying tuned for that. I appreciate that for sure. Sure, yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. I know it's really late for you in Texas right now, and hopefully our viewers will definitely enjoy this segment for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate your time. And what time, where are you actually right now? It must be late for you, right?
I'm in Asia right now, so
Oh,
yeah, it's quite early for me, but it's okay. I mean, I'm very happy to talk to you today.
absolutely. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Yes.